Everybody knows that Speed is the most chaotic person on the internet, but what if he's actually the most stable? I mean, psychologically. Of course, he's still chaotic, but psychologically stable. But I know your questions. How is this possible? What are you even talking about? For years, I've watched him quite literally be the most energetic, wild person on the internet. Well, in this video, I'll prove it to you through an investigation of Speed's mind and journey. We must look beyond the madness to see the stability. Through his story and the long list of setbacks along the way, you'll see something remarkable. How a kid who was banned, swatted, humiliated, and written off as a troll just ended up on one of the biggest stages in the world. Darren Watkins Jr., also known as Speed, was born on January 21st, 2005 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Unfortunately, his upbringing was immediately difficult. He lived a childhood defined by financial strain and the separation of his parents, although their separation date is unknown. And at a young age, Speed was already facing a tough decision. Which parent do I live with? He chose his mother, who stayed in Ohio, to be closer with his friends at school. And his dad moved 4 hours away to Detroit, Michigan, and life went on. But all of this took a toll on young Speed. To find a place where he could escape his difficult life situation, Speed started live streaming in December of 2017 at the young age of 12. And for 2 years, he grinded with very little traction. Until the pandemic, live streaming was something fun to do after school and a place where Speed could connect with people on the internet. He played NBA 2K, and while he only averaged 10 to 20 viewers, he loved it. But then COVID-19 hit, and now at 15, Speed was in an even worse position than before. He couldn't hang out with his friends, his family had little to no money, and his relationship with his parents just wasn't great. Where was the only place that he could go? Live streaming. And from that point on, it consumed his life. Speed certainly had economics on his side. In 2020, there was way more demand for internet content than there actually was, because everyone was at home. And short form content and live streaming were still relatively new phenomena. And Speed, already streaming for hours every day at this point, was way ahead of the curve. But that's not why he streamed. It wasn't to achieve fame. He didn't view it as a gap in the market. Instead, his decision to stream was a psychological one. His main reasoning for starting was for his mental health. No matter what was going on in Speed's life, he had streaming. And while he didn't understand the mechanics behind why it helped him so much, it did nonetheless. So Speed let it consume all of his time. Speed had found his medicine, but unknown to him yet, this medicine would change his life. But the power of this medicine would be tested constantly, as we'll see throughout this video. Could live streaming really get Speed through all of life's hardships? His first internet incident would only occur a few months into the pandemic. By mid-2020, almost 3 years into streaming, enough hours of Speed's chaotic energy existed on the internet that people started to take notice, including World Star Hip Hop, who at the time posted viral clips. They posted a clip of Speed where he was reacting aggressively to a video game. The clip went viral, but ironically, due to the amount of hate that it received. But more importantly, his father saw it and showed Speed's antics to his mother. She was startled when she saw the hate, concerned for her household's reputation. From her perspective, not only was her son going insane, but thousands of people hated it. There was reason to be scared. As a result, she went to 15-year-old Speed and gave him a proposition.
She told me to quit,
yeah,
or I'm leaving. Like, you know, or like, you can't do this in my house. So I'm like, I'm out.
Now, any normal person would assume that at 15, just being a freshman in high school, you would choose to stop streaming. But Speed had found the only thing that cured his mental health: streaming, and he just couldn't give that up. So he left, moved in with his father, and continued streaming. For most people, this would have likely tarnished any relationship that they had with their mom. I can't imagine what it would feel like to voluntarily leave the house at 15. But incredibly, Speed has reconciled this relationship and has since purchased his mother a $1 million mansion. This shows real maturity, but a pattern was emerging. Despite external approval or setbacks, the streaming would continue. It was simply that important, even if that disapproval came from his own mother. And the pattern would repeat itself constantly throughout his career, as we're about to see. This would certainly not be the only external setback that Speed faced. For the next 18 months, Speed was up to all kinds of hilarious antics and growing fast as a result. He had mastered the art of making clips go viral on social media to gain more viewership. He would bark at the camera, backflip, scream at his mother, and destroy his equipment, and all of it was hilarious. But incredibly, none of it seemed to affect him that much. He was grinding. As a result, he experienced one of the most rapid growth spurts in YouTube history. In June 2021, he went from 300,000 to 1 million subscribers within a week. He was quickly becoming a household name in the streaming world. This was also when we found out that he was a Cristiano Ronaldo fan, which we'll revisit later. While many of these clips of Speed triggering virality could be deemed questionable, none were major enough to threaten his career until December 13th, 2021. At the time, Aiden Ross, another popular streamer, liked to host e-dating shows, where streamers would go on dates and compete to win the woman over. Speed was constantly featured, and of course, he was going to create some drama. But on this particular day, it would have consequences that he couldn't have even seen coming. The model in this stream was Ash Cash, and in an effort to get to know her, Speed asked her a hypothetical question.
Say if we're the last two people on Earth, and we had to reproduce to make the world continue, would you reproduce with me?
No, because that means our kids will have to intertwine and then their kids, no.
Who gonna stop me?
Shortly after this incident, Twitch banned his channel permanently. While most of his audience did live on YouTube at the time, he lost 500 to 1,500 paying subscribers overnight. At the peak of cancel culture, this could have derailed his career, but not Speed. And while part of it was that he was always up to ridiculous things, part of it was his reaction. The ban didn't bother him at all. He didn't issue an apology. He didn't stop streaming. He didn't even speak on it. He just migrated everything to YouTube, and it became his primary platform. It was as if nothing happened. And while this clip has resurfaced since then, looking back, it had no impact on Speed's longevity because Speed wasn't affected. He just kept streaming. The next incident would come 6 months later on July 4th, 2022. At this point, he was back living with his mother in the house that he had bought for her. But that didn't mean that Speed calmed down any of his behavior. To celebrate the 4th, Speed bought a Pikachu themed firework, which he mistakenly believed was a harmless sparkler that would only set off a few sparks. But instead of it being a few sparks, the device emitted huge amounts of sparks. It filled his room with heavy smoke, triggered the fire alarms in his home, and the local fire department had to intervene. Speed had nearly set his mother's house on fire. During the moment, Speed absolutely reacted. He panicked, yelled for his mother, and was slowly engulfed by the smoke. The stream abruptly ended, and hours later he posted, "Pray for me." But by the next stream, it was as if nothing happened. His house was intact, and he lived to tell the tale, treating the emergency as top-tier comedic content. And of course, the clips went viral. Another incident would happen just a few weeks later on July 22nd, 2022. He received a community guideline strike for accidentally displaying explicit content while playing an adult version of Minecraft to nearly 100,000 viewers. He was banned for a week. Not streaming, Speed was angry. He posted on his Instagram story stating, "I'm banned, guys. Goodbye." Yet of course, after the 7-day ban ended, he returned to live streaming as if nothing happened. But a few weeks later, another even crazier incident would happen. On August 8th, Speed was streaming and an unknown viewer submitted a police report to his house. In the streamer world, this is known as swatting. Officers stormed his room in front of thousands of live viewers, and his cameraman was forced to end the stream as Speed was handcuffed. He was driven to custody, where he was fortunately bailed out by none other than Aiden Ross. Finally returning to streaming 3 days later, he shouted that he didn't do shit to his chat. But that was it. He didn't request added security, he didn't take a break, and he never addressed it again. He simply moved on, as if nothing happened. It became another part of the story, never to be thought about again. After this, there was peace, but only for a few months, until the World Cup that November. To build hype for the major event and show his love for soccer, Speed released his single, World Cup, on November 4th, which today has over 230 million views. But it wasn't all success. Sky Sports, the major soccer television network in the UK, pulled all content featuring Speed following public outrage about his past comments, likely referring to the Ashcast situation. And then, 2 weeks later, he faced even more criticism for promoting a cryptocurrency project called the Paradox Metaverse, a pump and dump scheme. scamming hundreds. But Speed didn't even know. He was still only 17 at the time, and he took accountability, stating, "I made a mistake that I wish I never did, but I'm not a scammer." He also publicly apologized about his misogynistic behavior and promptly returned to his stream, as if nothing happened. 2022 was one of the most important years in defining Speed's success, filled with lots of important moments. But it was also filled with controversy. Yet with each thing that happened to him, he was able to move on effortlessly. But I don't highlight these incidents to prove that he's emotionally numb. In fact, he seems to be quite the opposite. The first time we found out about Speed's love for Cristiano Ronaldo was on December 29th, 2021.
What soccer football team do you support?
Cristiano Ronaldo, Suey. Simple as that, bro.
Unknown to him, of course, but at this moment, Speed's life changed. This served as incredible branding, and the world would soon know how much of a Ronaldo fan Speed was. But it would take 18 months for Speed to finally meet him. On June 17th, 2023, Speed was in Portugal and attended a match featuring Ronaldo, and after the game, Speed finally met the man of his dreams. The love was obvious through the clip, and the video spread like wildfire. Speed had a similar reaction just a few weeks ago when he met BTS at the World Cup final. The clip of them meeting has over 350 million views. And they were just as excited to meet Speed. But Speed doesn't always react this way when he meets someone with power. In July 2024, Speed was in Albania and he met the Prime Minister of the country, Edi Rama. Speed hugged him, explained why he was there, and showed love to the country. But then he started dribbling a basketball in the Prime Minister's office and showing off his skills, treating him just as he would a friend from school. And more recently, just a few weeks ago, Speed was at a World Cup match, and 2 seats over was Zoran Mandami, the mayor of New York City and one of the most popular political figures in the world over the last 6 months. But Speed didn't even know who he was. He only understood who he was once his chat informed him of it, and upon realizing, he went to introduce himself, and they exchanged some kind words before swiftly returning to watch the game, treating him like a friend. Why do I provide these examples? To show that Speed is not swayed by power or external metrics. He doesn't care. Whenever he meets someone, he's just himself. And whether that's through fandom with Cristiano Ronaldo or friendship with Zoran, it's authentic. It's literally Speed just being Speed. The same is true whenever he meets his fans on the streets or talks to them in his chat. Whoever they are, he embraces them. He loves them. And it's likely how he views his own success as well. Sure, millions of subscribers and breaking records is great, but what he cares most about is the streaming itself and the impact that he has. The streaming itself brings him the fulfillment that he seeks, not the fame he has achieved as a result of it. The streaming is medicine. But does the medicine always work, or are there times when the external instance does affect him? He can't be completely immune, right? 2023 was a huge year for Speed, and for the first half of it, everything was going well. He was going viral consistently, growing his channel, and streaming all the time. But at some point, the lifestyle would catch up to him. That summer, he was in Tokyo, traveling and streaming. But while he was there, he developed a severe sinus infection that caused extreme headaches and his right eye to swell shut. He was brought to the hospital and remained there for several days. This was life-threatening. In his return stream on August 15th, Speed explains that he was close to jumping off a Japanese building as a result of the pain. Not only was he sick, but he couldn't stream. That combination was awful. Thankfully, he recovered, but just a day later, he would deal with another controversy. On August 16th, Speed was streaming Five Nights at Freddy's to 25,000 viewers. Chica, one of the animatronics in the game, gave him a jump scare, and in the reaction, he accidentally exposed himself live on camera. He ended his stream immediately, deleted the video, and went to his mother's room in tears. He stated in a 2024 interview, "I cried. That was always my biggest fear."
And I've really been lately, these past hours, this past days and hours, I've been suffering very mentally, bro. You know, generally, bro. I just don't know what to do, bro. Like, I don't. It's like it's just insane, bro.
But that wasn't even the end of it. His viewers clipped it, and he earned a new nickname, IShowMeat, and the memes flooded social media. And it didn't help that his own father made a clip calling him the nickname as well. It would take 4 to 6 months for the nickname to finally die down. His chat and the clips made it really difficult for Speed to move on. So clearly, some things do bother Speed. While he is able to move on from 90% of life's occurrences, if rooted in sickness or a deeper insecurity, it can really affect him.
I'm sick of fucking chilling. You can't chill. Don't tell me to fucking calm down. Every time I open up my phone, it's the same shit.
But even after moments like this, Speed has never stopped. Despite his feelings about the IShowMeet situation, he got back on his stream just 2 days later. No break, no rebranding, no shying away from the incident, just facing it with full force. But this still doesn't answer the question. How does the same kid who chose streaming over living with his own mother, was banned from Twitch, nearly set his house on fire, was swatted, nearly died in Japan, and leaked his private parts on stream, a kid who is widely seen as a complete troll, end up on one of the biggest stages in the world?
Just 4 years ago, I was in my mom's house, in my mom's room, streaming, barking, Suey, Cristiano Ronaldo, Suey, lighting my house on fire, a kid from Ohio, Portugal, and I just performed at the World Cup final. Things are gonna get hard no matter what. Just remember that. No matter what you're dealing with, no matter, everybody's life is hard, chat. Everybody's gonna deal with challenges. You gotta get over them. Get through it. Okay? And keep pushing.
This was Speed just a few weeks ago after performing at the World Cup, the biggest sporting event in the world with over 1 billion people watching. And there Speed was, a superstar, and all of it because of live streaming. And you could say that the reason he's up there is because of his athleticism, or his personality, or his charisma, or his humor, but I don't buy it. There must be something deeper, right? How is he so popular? How is he so universally loved? Ultimately, I think it comes down to his ability to process things, and I think that ability comes from the act of live streaming itself. And we've explored the mechanism in this video through plenty of examples. But how does it work? Let me explain, and we are going to get a bit deep, so just bear with me. I'm even open to you disagreeing with me, but this is my interpretation of it. There's a concept from the book, The Power of Now, a book on spirituality and presence, combining many concepts from modern religion and philosophy. The concept is called the pain body. Essentially, as humans, we all experience trauma, whether we're in control of it or not, and it can come in all forms. Much of it comes from our childhoods, where we have no control over what we experience. But if that trauma goes unhealed and unprocessed, it forms bruises, literal scars within you, just like when you get a physical bruise. And these emotional scars shape the way that we perceive reality. Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now, argues that the way to heal these scars is through presence, to experience the pain body as it arises in our consciousness and simply be aware of it, to accept it, to be present. He argues that presence itself is such a strong positive energy field that our scars simply can't survive within it. For most humans, we struggle with this, including me. The human mind is constantly fighting against presence. Why do you think so many of us are addicted to our phones? But for Speed, I think the opposite is happening. Speed has to process literally everything that happens to him because he's live. From the best moments of his life to his worst, his raw self is on display all the time. There is nowhere to hide, nowhere to distract himself. He must accept his situation and move through them with presence. He can't be anywhere else. He literally can't be anywhere else. That's why live streaming is a medicine. It's a processing superpower. He's certainly been faced with tons of these potentially trauma-inducing situations. I mean, look at the content within this video. And as a result of the hardships, combined with his ability to process life's obstacles, he's become an incredibly strong, mature, and stable human being. Of course, there was much nuance to this argument. For one, as we saw, he isn't indestructible. The IShowMeet and Tokyo situation prove that. And the reason he started streaming is because his mental health was already in disarray. Who's to say that he's fully recovered? And what if live streaming just has the opposite effect? What if instead of a processing superpower, it's a processing suppressor? Conducted by Days Digital, journalist Nikolaya Rips argues this after having interviewed Speed. She claims that streaming leaves little room for interiority, demanding total devotion to the moment with no time to process what just happened. This is a fair take. It's certainly possible, and Speed still has shown signs of shaky mental health despite his success. Most evidently on his America tour from September 2024, where he stated, "I need a therapist. I need to talk to a therapist. I need somebody to talk to because I feel alone. I feel like nobody understands me." Likely, it's a mix of both. And while the truth of Speed's internal state might be difficult to understand, the impact he's had is not. Speed is quite literally uniting the world through soccer, through his world tours, and through showcasing the incredible cultures and communities that populate our planet. Speaking for myself, I didn't know much about Africa before I watched some of Speed's tour. And while traveling is literally one of my favorite things to do, I've never been to Africa. Seeing it on his stream was inspiring. There are so many incredible places to visit. Now I want to go experience the community, food, and culture of so many African countries. And I can thank Speed for that. And even for the people that can't afford to travel, how incredible that they get to experience it through Speed's camera. So it's my hope that Speed realizes the impact he's having, the mission he's taken on, how much meaning it holds, and the effect it's having on millions of people around the world. And while I don't know whether he's internalized this or not, it's incredible to be a witness of, but I think he has.